everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. It is time for another installment of World's Easiest Project. This time we are going to do what I would probably say is the world's easiest historical costuming project. I swear, this is so easy. We are going to make an 18th century quilted petticoat. Now, at first thought that sounds like it could be difficult, but we are using pre-quilted fabric. And more than that, we are using gridded pre-quilted fabric. So that is gonna make pleating so easy. I bought this fabric from the fabric district. It is from Luxury Fabrics. I have seen it some other places as well, but it is silk on the outside, kind of a, I don't know if it's a silk taffeta, silk shantung, but like something like that. And then it is backed with cotton. Now, originally I did toy with the idea of making this project way harder and doing this so that the squares would actually be diamonds, as in doing it on the bias. The problem is that this fabric really stretchy on the bias. So we are gonna take that away and make this easy on ourselves and just do it on the straight of grain. Now, the reason that I was going to do it on the bias is because historically speaking, other than maybe like one or two kind of coarser, more working class petticoats, all the petticoats, quilted petticoats that I've seen out there have been quilted in a diamond motif with maybe some decorative stuff at the bottom and not in squares. But you know what? You gotta work with what you have. This was a really good price. I think I paid like $12.95 a yard for this, if that. It might have been less than that. And yeah, it was really great. The only downside is that Luxury Fabrics does not sell online. So I actually ordered this over the phone based on pictures that my friend Sarah sent me. But yeah, they don't sell online. You either have to have some sort of a mule to take pictures for you. Maybe they'll do it with this. Just tell them you want the red quilted silk if they still have that. But yeah, you have to call them and order it over the phone. Basically, the first thing that we're going to do is determine how wide this needs to be. I am not doing this to scale or anything like that. At first, I was just gonna do 2 panels, but I did look in Janet Arnold. By the way, this is kind of a teaser of a project to come. I'm making a quilted 18th century ensemble, like a Brunswick type ensemble. That'll come later, like in January, but in fact, I don't even know when you're gonna be watching this video. Could be December, could be January, because I'm working on 3 projects all at the same time. But I looked in Janet Arnold at this little beautiful quilted garment, and I looked just at the skirt width, and this skirt width is actually, I think it was 156 inches wide, so that is way more than 2 panels. That's definitely going to be a 3 panel. My fabric is about 56 inches wide, so I'm just going to do 3 panels together. I don't want to have it like any heavier or more bulky than that, and I also don't really remember how much of this fabric that I bought, so hopefully I have enough when it comes to the jacket. But we're gonna live on the edge and just go ahead and do this. So really, you just need 3 rectangles of this fabric. Now, generally speaking, an 18th century petticoat is actually going to be leveled at the waist instead of at the hem. And the real reason for the leveling is because it does have to go over the understructures, as in like a bum pad and petticoat. So I'm going to be using my petal-shaped bum pad and petticoat, and then I will kind of determine where this needs to go. So I'm going to put on my 18th century undergarments, see what the length needs to be, and you also have to determine where you want this petticoat to hit as far as down at the hem. So a quilted petticoat or a quilted Brunswick ensemble, it's a traveling garment. You don't want it to drag in the dirt, especially silk. So this is not going to hit the floor. 18th century, I feel like ankle length was a super common length. You do obviously want it to keep you warm. So I feel like ankle length is that good medium where it's going to be warm. You can show off your cute shoes and it's not going to drag in the dirt. So that is what I am aiming for. It'll also give me a little bit of play as far as leveling things out. So that is my next step. I am gonna figure out the length that I need. I'm not gonna bother with stays yet or anything like that because I just need a length. And then I will know how long to cut these pieces to. I have my quilted under petticoat on right now, which is made out of matelassé. I know you guys have told me how to say that before. I'm gonna go with matelassé. It's probably wrong. Anyway, this was from Joann's. I don't think they carry it anymore, unfortunately, but if you can find it still, this is another option and works really great for a quilted petticoat. It did dawn on me, like, this one is only 2 panels. So now I'm starting to rethink things again. I should probably double check how much I ordered to make sure that I leave enough for the Brunswick and let that determine how much I'm using for this quilted petticoat. In any case, I have put this on and it is over my bum pad, petal shaped bum pad as well. And frankly, like, this is pretty much the exact length that I want. The only thing is that the outer petticoat obviously does have to be longer than this. So I am going to make sure that my new petticoat that I'm making today is this length plus enough to turn seam allowance and hem up here or into the waistband up here, and also plus probably about 3/4 inches longer because I don't want it too long. This right now, I know you can't see it at all, but it's kind of at the high ankle, so I have a little bit of wiggle room to bring it down just a skosh and make sure that this doesn't show. Because I feel like most likely if it is winter, you might as well wear a quilted petticoat underneath too, as opposed to a regular petticoat. I don't know. And this one just, it does a really nice job of filling things out. So anyway, that is what I'm going with for length. I haven't actually measured it yet, but I will once I take it off, and then I can get to cutting. I just did some math and looked up some things, and the quilted petticoat, or rather the length that I will need for this new petticoat, is 46.25 inches in the center back, 45.25 inches by the time it gets to the side, and 43.5 inches by the center front. And I also looked up how much of this quilted silk I got. I got 8 yards. So altogether, if I have 3 panels of 46.25 inches, that will take up 3.85 yards, leaving me still over 4 yards to do the jacket, hood, sleeves, etc. And I think that should be fine. I'm pretty sure if all else fails, I can cannibalize one of the pieces that I am putting in this skirt. But I am gonna go ahead and go with the 3 panels for this skirt, and I'm just going to cut them all at 46.25 inches because then I can level the hem or level the waist when I go to figure out exactly how long it needs to be. Let's go ahead and cut 46.25 inch panels, 3 of them, and then just seam them together. I have cut out all of the skirt pieces and I'm seaming them up right now. I was going through Costume in Detail and Patterns of Fashion, and all of the petticoats in Patterns of Fashion close at the sides, and there are 2 petticoats I think in the Costume in Detail that do not close at the sides and the rest of them do. Of course, one of them is from the quilted silk ensemble, but there's so many that do close at the sides. I'm just going to keep that as the closure, and I'm going to seam up the center back all the way. So that's what I'm going to do. Now that the petticoat seams are all sewn up, it is time to start pleating it. So I'm going to pleat it actually on my dress form because this dress form has a waist that is exactly my waist measurement when in stays, which is perfect. So that means that I can really just put the fabric on here and pleat it to this exact measurement, which is really, really, really helpful because I can pin into the form and pin all of the pleats and everything together as I go. So that's what I'm going to do. Because this is gridded, basically, because of the quilting, it should be really quite easy to figure out. I just have to make sure that I can get that volume of skirt down to the waist. So that is going to be the real challenge. Once I've pleated it down, I will press all of the pleats in place as well, obviously, and then I will level it out before putting it on the waist ties, which I generally just use bias tape folded over for these, but of course I didn't check my bias tape stash beforehand, so I have no idea if I actually have bias tape in a color that would at all correspond. Not that you ever see the ties, obviously they're hidden by the bodice, but I like to get something that's like coordinating in some way, so don't know that I have that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pleat everything down, and I just eyeball pleat. I don't measure it. These ones will be a lot more regular because it is gridded, so it is very easy to tell, okay, well this one is always going to be like 2 squares deep, 2 squares across, etc. So yeah, it's very, very nice when you take gridded fabric because you don't have to measure anything. She is all pleated up now and ready to be pressed and put on the bias tape waistbands that I will get from Joann's tomorrow because you don't have colors that match at all. And by the way, with the bias tape, I'll show you more of this later, but I use like the double fold where it will fold over the top here, and then I stitch it with zigzag stitches so that it doesn't wind up worrying about like stretch or anything like that. And it has always worked for me with 18th century petticoats, so I don't see why this would be any different, needing twill tape or anything like that. But yeah, so basically she is pleated with, it's like every 7 squares there's a fold on the front, and most of the back is every 8 squares, so they're just a little bit deeper in the back except for the 2 that are most towards the front of the side. The opening is right here. So this is where the pocket slit will be, right in there, and this will be on one tape, and then this will be on another tape. And yeah, it looks so rich and gorgeous. I'm just loving this. And once I pleat it and I'm ready to put it on the tapes, I will obviously have to even this out, level this out as well. I'm just going to measure it to make it my initial, like, whatever I said, 43 and a half, 45 and whatever those were. I'm just going to like measure it from the bottom and then go up. This does also still need a hem, but that will come once I have put all of this on. It's just going to be turned evenly though, and almost certainly stitched by hand. Everything is now pressed in place pleat-wise, and I also did all of my measurements. Somehow this shrank a bit from when I cut it. I don't know if that was just because the selvage edge maybe was longer or something, but yeah, I lost actually 1.5 inches, so I'm going to turn under a very, very small hem because otherwise my petticoat's going to show. Right now, I mean, Antoinette's kind of up high, but right now it's actually 7.75 inches off the ground without turning up a hem, but it is even all the way around, which is kind of the point. So starting about right here-ish, I guess technically it's more like right here, it goes down just a little to like where this one is, and then down a little more. This is the bend right here at the waist. So I'm going to mark all of that with a pin, and that will be where it is bound off. And I will probably baste that. I've basted up here, but I'll baste right here as well so that it is easy and I can just cut off the excess. I went to Joann's and I have now acquired 2 different types of bias tape, both the extra wide double fold, which I'm going to be using for the waistband, as well as just the regular single fold, which I'm going to be using for the hem. So because the hem lost so much length, I don't even want to do a tiny turned hem. This fabric is thick, and so the minimum turned hem that I'm going to be able to do is probably still like about 3/4 inches total lost length, and I don't want to do that. So with the bias tape hem, I can probably do about as little as 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, where I can just sew the bias tape on the bottom, basically extending the length by the length of the bias tape, and then just turn that up, and I will hand sew that down. So I'm gonna do that, I think, first, and then I'm going to put the waistband ties on, and I will show you how I do the waistband ties, but it's really very easy. So to do this, you're going to need 2 pieces of bias tape, or 2 packages of bias tape, really. It depends on your waist size, of course, but for me, I have a 40-inch waist and slightly smaller in stays, but not by much, and I take an entire package of bias tape. This is the double fold bias tape for the front section because I like to bring the ties around to the front. So your center would match the center front of your skirt, and you would tie it around, and then you can tie your bow. I do mine a little off to the side so that it's not like bulky right here in the front, so tie it right off to the side there. And then the back, you want it to be long enough that you can get your bow here on the front, but it's only going like back of the petticoat and then around. It doesn't have to wrap twice. So this I cut off probably about, I don't know, 30 inches or something like that from the piece of bias tape, and then this one just ties around, and again it'll be match the center of this piece to the center back, and I just do it like right sides together, fold it over, and then I stitch a zigzag all the way along the whole tape. So I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. And this is what it looks like when it is done. I used a 3-step zigzag, and it's sewn from the inside, so that's what the inside looks like, grabbing the edge. First you sew it on with a straight stitch, and then you just run the zigzag over, and that runs over on all of the ties as well. And that's it. Super, super easy. And here is the finished petticoat. So it's really very nice. I mean, again, super, super simple project, but I think this will work great with my Brunswick when I go to make that. So I do hope that you enjoyed this super, super simple project and that it was helpful for you. Again, this is just a little sample of what is to come, which is the full Brunswick project. However, I'm realizing as I put on these stays that I really should make stays first. This is why I have not done 18th century in a really long time, is because my existing stays suck, the ones that I made years and years and years ago. And then I actually won these, but they are way too short-waisted and they're too big. So I really should be making stays first, and I don't want to at all. So we'll see when the rest of the Brunswick project will come, if this is going to be a January project or after I finish a different other project that I want to do, which you'll know what it is if you've been on my Instagram. But it will come soon because I have all this fabric and now I've already made the petticoat, and therefore I should be making the jacket to go with it. I just hate making stays. Anyway, if you liked this video though, please do go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and other costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon and Julie. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!